Could it be Hastings making me? What's time at a thing that kill or keep a fire or lose or living? I gotta go faster, keep up the pace, just to stay in the human race. I could go supersonic, the problem's chronic. Tell me, does life exist beyond it? When I need to sate, I just accelerate into oblivion. Into oblivion.
Alright.
It's my little sweat bead, like I'm on like.
Yeah. like you're a stressed out person in an anime or a manga.
Yeah, you gotta have like a snot bubble and like when I exhale it has to be like a cloud of air. And the clouds have to be over my head and they have to look fwa, as they call it in Japan. That cloud is very fwa.
Yes. Alright, record breakers in 3, 2.
Cheesy 5-layer burrito, everybody.
What? Buenos nachos, amigos, and welcome to another fine episode of Record Breakers. I am Petey Rave, your man with no plan. Here with me, as always, are none other than Brett,
Crunchwrap Supreme,
Patrick,
Excelsior,
and Drew.
Hello.
We're gathered once again to talk about music, review some music, share music with each other. And it's a communal thing. We share, because sharing is caring. Here to share music with the group is Drew. It's Drew's turn. What do you got for us this week?
Well, this is a little band formed in the year 2000 out in Chicago, Illinois. Little Celtic punk rock band by the name of Flatfoot 56. Fun history, fun instrumentation. If you like yourself some bagpipes and some mandolin, you're gonna have yourself a good time.
Mary Magdalene? What?
Yes.
It is Easter.
Oddly enough.
Well, it's actually a couple weeks from Easter.
That's right.
Let's not reveal this.
Behind the curtain.
It's Easter-ish.
It's 2 weeks from Easter. All right, so let's go around the horn. We knew we were getting some Celtic punk. I imagine we had some interesting expectations. I'll go with Patrick. What were you expecting going into this album?
I was unfamiliar, but I'm familiar with Celtic punk in that I'm a fairly big Flogging Molly fan. I've seen them live a couple times. They are, as far as like the punk bands I've seen go, probably the best by a large margin live. But there's sort of two ends to Celtic punk, the other end being sort of Dropkick Murphys, who I've never really been that into. No hate, just doesn't do it for me for whatever reason. So I figured it was somewhere on the pantheon between Flogging Molly and DKM. And we will discuss where on the pantheon that fell.
Mm-hmm. Brett, what did you think coming into this album? What were you expecting?
I had no idea. I was told there would not be horns. Were no horns, so I knew that going in there was not going to be a horn, and I was told there was going to be bagpipes. I got some of that, but other than that, I had no clue other than that they were from Chicago.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So, Drew, what would be the key things, music-wise, to key in on? What are the key themes and elements?
To me, Flatfoot 56 is one of two parts. They're sort of this band that on the forefront is this sort of brash Irish punk sort of band. They're really rough around the edges. There's a lot of sing-along, there's a lot of fist pumping, there's a lot of circle pitting and having fun. But at the same time, their lyrics and their imagery are very old world. Very almost like you get that punk edge, but then the bagpipes and the like almost Dubliners-esque lyrics of like these old world ideals come through. I think that is really, really apparent in some of the songs that we'll get into later. And that's sort of where I think their strengths lie. There's, again, some songs, we will get into that too, that have a very Christian slant. They don't make any ifs, ands, or buts about that, but they're also very understanding. They're not in it for anything. They're like, this is just kind of who we are, and we want to make music for people who want to be who they are. And I think that is something to be commended, and something that is just a lot of fun to both listen to and to be a part of at the shows.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's very cool, interesting style. It's very something that I knew somewhat of, and I didn't know exactly what to expect, but I kind of knew what we were kind of about to get to. Brett, what stood out for you thematically?
This is I was there when this happened. The mid to late 90s through the early 2000s, when like you had any group of 4 or 5 freckled white dudes from the U.S. who wanted to be a part of Irish music, as as the Americans call it, but it kind of confuses Irish people. It had a sound much like the Dropkick Murphys. The vocalization actually sounds very similar. The themes, they're what you would expect. It was at the time when Irish people, pirates, and having pipes, or like they didn't have a plectrum banjo or a tenor banjo, but the mandolin more than made up for that. It covers the same use, but it was definitely. It almost felt like it mirrored very much the sound of the Murphys, in the style, the heaviness of the drums, the way that the vocals were enunciated, and they didn't quite do the fake I'm Irish accent. They didn't do the hi diddle diddle. I'm a man from Chicago, but I'm going to do the Irish voice. But they did very much enunciate in the way of the style and genre of music.
Yeah. Patrick, what stood out thematically for you from this album?
I would agree with Brett that it's definitely more in the in the mold of Dropkick Murphys. It's the best thing I can say is, like, it's music I want to be in a pit to. It is really, really good, like, music to be in a pit with a bunch of dudes running into each other when you're 17 years old. Like, that is, and yes, and we'll continue on that theme. Like, they seem like a band that I would have a blast at a live show. Mm-hmm. Like that, like they seem fun. It's, it's not, like Drew sort of mentioned it. They are Christian, but they're not especially preachy about it. They're not, they're not a praise and worship band. It just sneaks into some of the songs, and it's not, it's not blatant or dickish. It's just, this is what we sing about because it's our life, and that's cool with me. I can, might not be my thing.
Sing about what you know.
Yeah, they sing about things that are important to them, and I can get behind that because I like a lot of songs that are about stuff.
They sing what they know.
I mean, Drew, you've brought us how many songs about booze and cocaine?
They sing who they are, and part of who they are is their beliefs, and part of who they are is their love of music.
They're very positive about it. They're not, they're not like push other people away about it, that we're right, you're wrong. They're just, this is us, this is our thing, we're doing it. And I can respect that.
And another thing, not just that, but they're not schmaltzy and
they clearly don't want to be on some big praise and worship tour with all those sort of things. They just want to do their thing, and that I can get behind.
Yeah.
I think they love their city just a little bit. Maybe. Yes. they may in fact like Chicago just a little.
He's a fan of Chicago. That is true.
Yes, they are.
Possibly the band, but definitely the city.
Yes, definitely. It's a good city to be a fan of. Drew, what would be some of the tracks that we would key in on that are important?
To me, this CD, there are 4 that are really important. City on a Hill is sort of an in-your-face message. It exemplifies Flatfoot. It's brash. It's rough around the edges. It's to the point. He doesn't make any ifs, ands, or buts about it. To me, sort of pushes an unwavering, like, sort of Christian message about where his heart lies and all that, and it does it in a very, very fist pumping, like, this is who I am sort of fashion, and I love that sort of thing. Warriors is the song to be in a pit to me. That song at the show is fun. You run around in a circle, you pump your fist in the air, and you have a good time with it. Warriors is a great song, especially live, because this has nothing to do with the music, but the Bowinkle brothers, the singer and their bass player,
Are they from What's the Matter You? What's the matter?
What's the matter? What's the matter, you?
What's the matter, you? Right. They are imposing guys. Tobin, the singer, has a side project that he does called 6'10", because that is how tall this man is. And his brother is not far behind him. He is a tall individual with giant mutton chops, and he is an imposing individual playing fast punk rock music for people to dance to, and I love that sort of thing. Loaded Gun, and Loaded Gun, I think especially, was another song that sort of, it's brash, it's rough around the edges, but it's exactly what they're about. We are accepting. We don't care what you are. We don't care who you are. We don't care what you got, as long as you've got a good heart and a good mind. We're accepting here. We're not one of the people, we're not going to throw you out. We're not going to judge you, nothing like that. And I think it ends on something really beautiful. Same Old Story, to me, is a song that just at some way just, I think, touches every one of their fans, because his story, Tobin's story, and a lot of kids' stories that come to Christian punk rock shows is one of finding this father, this idea of something, in a very horrible way. I have not been a good person, and he makes no ifs, ands, or buts about it. He's at the show, he will say, like, look, if you guys think this might not be autobiographical, you're wrong. You're absolutely wrong. Like, I don't know what to tell you. Like, I have had a bad past, and I got out of it. And if you have a bad past, you can find something to get you out of it. Whether it's the same thing that helped me get out of it, whether it's something else. You can find something. Just get out of it and get to a better place in your life and find something better. And that song, there was 3 times I've seen them live now. And whether it was 15 people in a no-name hole in Cleveland, or if it was a packed out theater in Chicago, like, this song had everybody singing, and it was fun. And like, talking to him after the show about this song and like about the band in general, like, this is him. Like, he pours his heart and soul into this entire CD, and he ends it on a song that says, I am pouring my heart and soul into something. I hope that it finds you the same way that these lyrics found me. And I think that's something that really is commendable in any artist.
Yeah. I go, Patrick, what would be some of the tracks that you keyed in on? What would be some of the key tracks for you?
For me, the ones that kind of grabbed me, I will agree, Same Old Story sounds like a song you sing half drunk at the end of the night. I don't know if they're straight edge or anything, but like, that is, it sounds like a song you'd sing half drunk at the end of the night at a bar for some reason, and like in a good way. And I see exactly what Drew's saying about the message. It rang to me as ever so slightly Jesus-y, but not like I said, not in a dickish way at all. It's just this guy, how he found what makes him tick. And that's cool. That's his story. I loved Pay Me $1 for whatever reason. It's just a little more laid back. The mandolin's really good. It feels really good. And maybe I'm an old man that all like the songs that are clearly meant for, being in a pit at a show don't do it for me, but the one that's a little more laid back really does. And the one before that, actually, Hoity Toities, feels like a Flogging Molly tune, and that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I could go over. I am a huge fan of Flatfoot. In fact, Behind the Curtain and Me, when me and Jake went to Chicago to see Five Iron Frenzy play. I knew Five Iron Frenzy was playing, I knew the Insiders were playing, and I was pumped about it. And then I saw on the marquee that night that Flatfoot was playing, and Jake hadn't told me, and he left it as a surprise for that night. And when I saw it, I freaked, because I can gush about Flatfoot. I love Flatfoot. I love their style. I love their message. I love their tenacity about it. And I could go on and on about every song. And Pay Me $1, I almost put on there, but I like to sort of keep it to 3 or 4 songs so I don't stomp all over the entire record and go over everything.
Like, every song's perfect and I love it. And we all have those albums in our life.
I love Flatfoot.
I had one of them and everybody else hated it, so, you know.
And the Pay Me $1 is very much that, like, working man's punk rock sort of anthem, and I love that sort of thing.
Brett, how about you chime in? What would be some of the songs that you keyed in on and why?
I'm gonna break the rules. I ain't gonna pick no songs. I'm gonna talk about stuff in songs. You guys, the content of the songs really didn't sing to me. It wasn't something that I latched a hold of. The song structure wasn't really anything that's groundbreaking, or nobody's gonna build a shrine to the progressions of songs that they wrote. But they did have good use of Highland pipes, and they had a good use of mandolin. Both of those things are both of them are not the easiest thing to just pick up and do with. Especially if you're a larger guy, mandolin's not the easiest thing to get your fingers around.
I play ukulele, and I cannot even begin to play a mandolin.
Well, a mandolin it's the same tuning as a violin, but if you think of it as a guitarist, everything is upside down and backwards. And you never want to learn an instrument based off of another instrument. But it's hard not to look at it and be like, this breaks my brain. And it's also, when you have big, gnarly, broken hands like lots of dudes do, it's hard to even put your fingers on the frets. But I could muddle my way through a mandolin. I cannot muddle my way through pipes. Pipes are very unforgiving. When you screw up, it's painful for not only you but everyone around you. And learning how to do them it's really something that is difficult. It's a folk instrument. It's not. There's really, I couldn't tell you where you could go and find somebody to teach you how to play a set of pipes, and I know everybody in this town who is a music teacher. That is just a very, very rare thing to find. So I find that to be the most memorable pieces of this music is the content of those two instruments. That would really that's what sets them apart from any Tom, Dick, and Harry that wanted to have a Celtic punk band. Otherwise, I think they're another Tom, Dick, and Harry that has a Celtic punk band. I will continue later with my summary.
It's tough because I think they have a message and a cool tone that if it doesn't land with you, everything else could feel kind of a little run-of-the-mill. But definitely they have a very cool and interesting tone and message with them. I think we can bring around the horn, and I'll go, Patrick. How would you kind of summarize your thoughts? What would be your thoughts in conclusion about the album?
If I was going to a punk show and they told me Flatfoot 56 were on the bill, I would be genuinely excited about that. They feel like a band that would be a blast to see live. And I've heard that from Drew. I've heard that from our collective friend Crunchy. They just seem like good times. Mm-hmm. The album itself...
I didn't know Crunchy had seen them.
Yeah, she spoke very highly. The album had a couple of songs I enjoyed, but it just didn't do it for me. I think for the reasons you kind of alluded to, that they lean on the DKM side, which is punk with two splashes of Celtic music thrown on it, where I kind of lean on Flogging Molly, which to me is more folk music with a really good drummer and with the tempo, doubled.
Also, actually Irish.
Actually,
Yes.
well, Dave's Irish. The band, I don't think all is, but Dave's Irish, the lead singer of Flogging Molly.
That's all you need.
And I think his wife's Irish, too, who plays violin and pan flute and whatever else. We won't go into the Flogging Molly fucking rabbit hole now, but there were songs I
Send your
enjoyed.
emails with everything that he's wrong about
To me,
just
whatever swagger at recordbreakers.com or whatever fucking email I don't have set up. At the swagger on Twitter, tell me where I'm wrong, because I am.
Yes.
But I didn't hate it at all. Like but I didn't love it either. It's like, I want to hear this live, but on an album, I feel like it just doesn't do it for me.
Brett, your conclusive thoughts. What are your thoughts?
When I first started listening to this album, I was kind of afraid it was going to be a little more on the nose with the we're going to try and sound as Irish as possible. I don't know if you'd call that like going freckle face. I don't know what the terminology for that is, but
going pale.
that were definitely that were playing off the success of the two most successful Dropkick Murphys and Flogging Molly. That sort of Flogging Molly wasn't exactly those are two different styles of music, but they sort of have the same in the Venn diagram of Celtic music, punk rock music, and the circles that we ran around in, all of us, I'm sure. It was something that sort of everybody heard. Yeah. And they didn't go that far. I'm sure they're okay guys to hang out with. I'm sure they're not, buttholes, but I don't want to shit all over them, but listen to it. I mean, if you're into that stuff, it's definitely a different take, content-wise, but it's not enough different that it stands out with me, that it's as noteworthy. It doesn't have the same feeling as when I heard the other two bands that I mentioned for the first time in the 90s. So. Yes.
It has that cool sound, and it's very evocative of all the Celtic punk bands that you've heard before. Like I said, we keep throwing the same two, but like Drew said,
they were the successful ones.
They're the successful. There are other bands like the Dubliners and a few others. There are other Celtic punk bands that it fits in kind of that spectrum in a specific place, but it could feel like, okay, I've heard this before, but they do have some really cool things going message-wise and tone-wise there that if you can, kind of latch onto them and they could speak to you in a way, could be really cool. So definitely something that, I think we keep saying, go listen to it, but I think that's a default on our show. So obviously go listen to it, but it might or might not speak to you. Drew, what would be your conclusions about the album?
I actually sort of agree with Brett. It's not, and this is something about some music I just dig on sometimes. And I said this about, I think, Bad Rabbits before on the show. Yeah. He's right. It's not going to break all new ground. There is not a revelation of music. There is not, oh, this is how this genre of music should be played. This is not your history-making rushes or what have you. This is something different. This is a band that they got together because they wanted to say something. Yeah. And what they want to say is very obvious, and they want to say it the way they want to say it. And it's something that actually is frowned upon in by some people of both communities, and like I said in Loaded Gun, they just don't care. This is music for groups of people that hey, we're going to sing about what we want to sing about. We want you to come to the table with what you want to be about, and we want to cultivate something that's fun and loving and good in the world. And we want to do that through punk rock music with a bagpipe and a circle pit. And screw it. That's just what we're going to do. And like Swagger said, having met the guys before and having great conversations with them a couple of times at shows, they are really genuinely good guys. They're really genuinely nice people. And they're the kind of people that at the punk show you want to be there. Because they're just nice, even keel, quiet guys that will rock a pit with you and not care. And I've been to the show, so I guess I can't say like they have a great show. And listening to the records, for bands like that I sort of see them. My first real experience with Flatfoot was a live show, that I sort of got dragged along by a friend of mine. Having that been my first experience, every record just reminds me of the show. So I guess I sort of have that caveat in there. Like, if I love you live and your record reminds me of you live, I'm more apt to listen to the record a lot. So I guess if you want to see them and you want to experience them in the best possible light humanly imaginable, go see them live. If you are one not to go to shows, I think it's a worthwhile record to listen to. I think it has something to say for everybody. I think it has a message that's sort of good and sort of can pick you up and make you happy about life in general. So,
I definitely agree with that. So with that said, now we get to what I like to call the main event of the evening. We have our much lauded, much anticipated Haiku reviews. Let's see who we start with. Let's start with Brett. What is your haiku?
American dudes acting like they're Irish dudes. Sadly, also ran.
Patrick, what is your haiku?
Fun Irish punk band. Album just doesn't grab me. Would be fun live though.
Mine is Celtic punk music with all the attitude and swagger you expect. And then, last but not least, we have Drew. What is your haiku?
Rough around the edge, but a soft spot in my heart. Working man's punk rock.
Of course, if you haven't already, you can listen along with us and share your thoughts with us by going to our playlist where we curate around the places where you can stream we have a Spotify playlist. We have a playlist on Beats Music. Let us know where else we can curate one for you, and we will do just that. Next, what will also be on that playlist at this point, which will be next week's. And speaking of Chicago, I'll have a guest next week. We're getting in a role of we're including some guests. Next week we're gonna have our friend and confidant, and my co-host on Haiku, Brandon Cooper, aka King Kaz, and he's gonna have an album for us by the name of The Fugees, The Score. So that's gonna be real cool and interesting. But that aside, you can check us out all over the internet. Patrick is at Swagger. Brett is at Hibbity Bibbard, HIBBITY BIBBARD. Drew is at XJuciferX. I'm at PD Rave. The show is at 4 Record Breakers. This guy's gonna be on next week. Just check us out all over there. Share, subscribe, like, download, Stitcher, iTunes. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo, y'all.
That was awesome.